Hey everyone, going to talk briefly because I haven't heard anyone yet. Excited for the space on RWAs and hoping everyone can hear us. Just wanted to drop a note for those listening. Looks like people can. Good to hear. All right. Also, not sure if there's technical issues from the host. Do the other speakers on the stage want to confirm that they can hear us and speak?
I can hear you guys. I'm having problems with my Bluetooth with the space, but everything else seems fine.
Awesome.
Yeah, good here.
Yeah,
Yep,
same here.
I can hear you. Yep.
Fantastic. So I guess we'll continue to wait for the host with the agenda.
Sounds like a plan.
Can
Cool.
you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, awesome. Sorry, guys. Mobile settings, voice, all that stuff. You guys probably do the same drill. All right. So I think we've got everyone that has requested. Thanks for hanging in there, guys. Can you guys hear me okay? Just one last check.
Yeah, all good.
Awesome. Hey, so if you're scheduled to be a speaker, go ahead and request to be a speaker. If you have not done so already, we've got a packed house of speakers. You guys are awesome. Great to see some familiar faces. Hopefully Dustin's going to brew up one of his freestyles again. But last week's episode did not tape. So obviously I am confident that we are recording on this one. But this is all about real world assets and enterprise, guys. All of our speakers have some experience with real world assets and a strong thesis. So we should have a packed house here today. This is Real Fi episode 7, RWA and Enterprise, where we're going to talk a lot about examples. I'm going to challenge our speakers as well to talk about examples, opportunities, semantics, distribution, risk of distributing an enterprise. I will just give a brief intro and I'll tee up one or two questions. You guys toss the mic and toss the baton to each other. Don't let me insert myself and yap away here. But my name is Anthony Diaz. I am the founder of the Go Project. We are a layer 1 ZK EVM for the real world asset space, leveraging real world assets and value to back tokens that can be distributed to the enterprise, that can enable enterprises and consumers to tokenize anything in seconds. We have a 1.7 million strong community. We will be doing an IDO for our GoXP RWA utility token soon. And furthermore, after that, our chain will have a coin to it, GSMC. So shameless plug there. But I think what's not about us, it's about the conversation that we want to drive forward today. You guys are working on a lot of great, amazing things. Rules and premises is let's talk in short, simple words. So all of those acronyms I just mentioned, I shouldn't have said them. But let's talk to, like we're talking to our nieces or nephews or sons or daughters, and really just explaining what we do in simple, short words. It's really important that we explain things in simple, short words because, one, these kids growing up aren't learning anything about business if they're going to public school, furthermore, right? We need to teach everyone around us about the fundamentals of business, the fundamentals of value, right? To tee us up before we go out of the room, we'll start with Token Tails, Alan, and then Taraxa, but you guys give an intro. I'm going to tee us up as we go around the room. I'm going to ask you guys just one question. Give an intro about what you're doing related to RWA. Number 2 is talk about maybe just some high-level applications or examples or a thesis of real-world assets impacting the enterprise. Tell me what that means to you. And then the next cycle we go around the room, we'll roll for about an hour here. The next cycle around the room we'll talk about a little bit more deeper use cases. Just to lead the witnesses a little bit, Global market for RWA tokenization. The market size 16 trillion by 2030, with over 1.5 trillion expected to be tokenized by 2025. RWAs currently are being tokenized are mainly real estate, commodities, bonds, private equity, intellectual property, carbon credits, and supply chain assets. There's trillions in real estate, right? 280 trillion, right? There's commodities. There's roughly about 300 million today in circulation. Paxos Gold, Tether Gold, leading the charge on the commodity side. Key players in the ecosystem that we all know of, and you guys are probably friends, cousins, brothers with some of these: Ondo Finance, Mantra DAO, Peak Finance, Centrifuge, JP Morgan, Onyx, Goldman Sachs are some major players. We know those names. Let's say those names, right? And then RWA Enterprise applications that are in use. You've got JP Morgan, Santander, Goldman Sachs doing some stuff. You've got Real IT and Property and Real Estate. You got Centrifuge and supply chain. In the carbon credit side, you've got Flow Carbon. You got Toucan Protocol doing some awesome stuff. But hey, we're not trying to just name drop and just talk about the market, but just wanted to frame some context that these aren't ideas. RWA is a real thing in the enterprise. It's happening faster. I think needless to say, when everyone thinks about enterprise, I think boring sometimes. I think, man, enterprise apps should be more simple, fun, and rewarding. But I think we're entering this phase where the finance manager could be the person that drives the most value in the enterprise. So I'm a little biased in saying that, but fastest growing areas of RWA tokenization are obviously real estate, green finance, carbon credits. Obviously the green stuff is very debatable. We don't get into those details unless you guys want to. Invoice and supply chain finance, securities and bonds, and then key distribution channels for RWA tokenization has been institution protocols to date, or institutional partnerships, DeFi protocols, tokenization platforms like Securitize, Polymath, Tokeny, and legacy system integration, so JP Morgan, Onyx, and Goldman Sachs. But let's go around the room, guys. Let's start with Token Tales. Give an intro. Talk about what RWA and the enterprise means to you. If you want to cite some examples. You guys can tell I drank my coffee before this, so my job right now is just to hush, let you guys take over. Love you guys. Really appreciate the support as always. And let's go around the room and let's talk business, guys. Token Tales.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, everyone. My name is Krishna, and I lead marketing at Token Tales. So firstly, thanks to Go Project for having us today. Super excited to tell you all about Token Tales and discuss more about the topic. So what we are doing at Token Tales, I think it's kind of related to RWA, because we have the game that we're building. It has real world impact. So we are building the world's first play to save gaming franchise that revolves around cats. So what the players can do in our game is they can take it's kind of like a Tamagotchi, but completely disguised, and you can take care of the cat, adopt these cats, and play with them and earn some coins in that, which will lead to rewards in the future. And coming to the real world impact and this RWA aspects, so I would say our project is kind of leaning towards the philosophical and this philanthropic side, and not completely into the real world assets, because the NFTs that we are building are virtual cats, and all these NFTs will be connected to the real cats in shelters. So we are initially starting in Lithuania. That is where the company is based and the whole team is based. And the shelter staff, they'll be able to enter the data of these real cats, something like their medical data, their needs, and the story behind each cat. And they can also update the status on how this cat is doing and what does it need. So when the cat NFT sales happen in Token Tales in this game, so 50% of all the revenue that we make, they go directly to the cat that is connected in the shelter. And on top of this, the person or the player who got this NFT cat, they'll be rewarded with a plush toy to celebrate their noble contribution. And in future, we'll also be launching some bracelets where they can kind of like, you can think of like a bracelet, like a Tamagotchi bracelet, I would say, where they can track their virtual cat and interact with their cat right there. I think what this sets us apart from other games is like now we are trying to explore these real world assets, but we're not going deep into this. But we took this philanthropic approach because we know that blockchain is created for community and by community, right? And we wanted to create a project to have a real world impact. And we thought, okay, like everybody loves cats, and we were like, okay, let's do it. And that's how we came up with this. And my opinion on real world assets, I think like that is I think that's going to be play a really key role in the future. I mean, more people will have access, I would say, to these assets, and as blockchain is transparent, most of these transactions will be transparent, and we do not have to rely more on these financial managers and others, I guess. I think, yeah, that sums up everything I would say.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Token Tales, very cool, awesome project. Alan Taraxa, Innovative, Dustin Williams, Salsa. And then, sorry, I'm on mobile here, so I'm just going to say the first characters. I know who you guys are, but keep rolling down the list and adding value here. Let's talk about RWA Enterprise and also say what you do.
Yeah, lovely. Anthony, thank you for having me on. And Kushna, thank you for your intro on your project, Token Tales. Excited to share a little bit more on Quai Network. I'm one of the co-founders of that project, and Quai is building the decentralized energy dollar on a scalable and programmable proof of work network. So aiming to build a layer one that achieves over 50,000 transactions per second while being as decentralized as Bitcoin, while also having programmable properties like Ethereum. So we're EVM layer one, and we're ramping up for mainnet later this year. We've had prior test nets with over 2,200 GPUs, 5,000 nodes, currently partnered with other large projects in the RWA and compute economy ecosystem, more specifically around DePIN as well, such as IONET, Portal to Bitcoin, Wearable, Lumerin, and others. So we're super excited about this emerging market in regards to having these things tied to bandwidth and digital commodities and RWAs. For us, we see this market really taking in, as much as you said, that 16 trillion by 2030. That is a huge area for us to innovate in and bring these assets on these decentralized networks and facilitate a permissionless way of transacting value here. So I see this area continuing to grow, and we want Quai to be a bedrock for this and facilitating a lot of the actual exchange that can happen in a peer-to-peer decentralized manner. So our goal with the project is to remain as credibly neutral and as censorship resistant as possible. I see crypto really as a wartime technology. I know it can be a lot of fun and games on the top layer, but we have to build these systems to be sound monetary layers that can exchange value for the long term. So having high levels of uptime, being very, very responsive to network dynamics, and being able to have ways to essentially combat attacks and combat ways that people try to censor or limit information. We live in an age in which, as we become more internet native, people want to restrict or even contain a lot of the things people do or say with their information and their value. So with Quai, we're creating ways that can remain open and credible for the long term, similarly to the internet. So excited to talk more on RWAs. I think this is going to be a great space, and glad to share my expertise and weigh in here from the Quai Network perspective. Also see a lot of people from the community in the crowd, so glad to have them here listening along and excited to chat a little further.
Al, really appreciate what you're doing. Taraxa, Innovative, Dustin, William. Let's keep going. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for having me on this panel. My name is Steven. I'm one of the co-founders of the Taraxa project. So Taraxa is actually a layer one. We started building it in 2018, launched our mainnet last year. It's the world's only proof of stake block DAG EVM compatible layer one. So it's really the next evolution towards for blockchain, right? So in parallel, we're also building a social AI platform called Echo. It's plugged into over 50,000 Telegram groups, ingesting over 1 million messages a day. There are applications that are built on top of it that uses the layers AI models on top to do automated trading, automated social campaigns, and automated do your own research summarizations on any asset topic narrative you'd like to see what the crypto community is talking about in real time. So A lot of interesting stuff. We don't do much with RWA, so I'm mostly here to learn. One of my Stanford classmates a few years ago launched a real estate RWA project in Japan. He's based in Tokyo. But one of the things that I saw was problematic about RWA is that if you have assets that are highly liquid, um, things like treasury, things like stocks, then they become highly regulated, which means that there's really no decentralization to speak of. All of these companies are running their own private chains, going through heavily KYC'd portals and applications. So the blockchain part of it is purely window dressing, purely window dressing. So I don't really know what the point of that is. Now, for the things that are not very liquid, like real estate, people aren't constantly buying and selling real estate in the real world. It doesn't happen nearly as frequently, obviously, as like treasury bills or stocks. So there isn't a constant price discovery, and it's not like the issuers can kind of offer a backstop to buy it back, preventing prices from collapsing on a DeFi platform, for example. So it's very very tricky, right? So on top of which they're also heavily regulated. So what is the point of putting the RWA real world assets on decentralized networks if they're not actually decentralized? I would love to find out because it seems like it's being hyped up quite a bit, and maybe there's something I don't get. Yeah, love to learn. Thanks.
Cool. I think it's me, right? Dustin. Hey you guys, Dustin Lee, CMO, co-founder of D-Store. So yeah, we're actually kind of in the intersection of like the gray market coming into like the RWA Enterprise sector. We're kind of at the like lower, tier, I guess, in the sense of like retail aspect because we focus on physical assets using, like a Web 2.5 like kind of intersection. I think it's like a low-hanging fruit, products and services, e-commerce, we do want to create attestation for products. And that's the whole sense of RWAs using blockchain-based, like digital twins per se is what we utilize for like NFTs. But like you mentioned, like I guess, yeah, the security or like use case or like provability, I would say like, that attestation for products to me is like most important. I think we live in a world where, physical goods could be owned in some sense, but who actually owns them? And then using like a DID solutions, social KYC, or like we have these smart fingerprints, these abilities to like prove ownership. But like enterprise level, like Centrifuge and Peak, like mentioned, like these are like more like infrastructure, and I think that's important too as well. But it's the same as like blockchain dApps, and the tokens built on top of the chains tend to do more, I guess, ROI in comparison. I want to speak, token talk, but like that sense is like the products that are based from these, enterprises what actually wins in the end, to my knowledge. But I'm not super huge in the RW enterprise sector, but I know Centrifuge and Peak. I work in the Polkadot ecosystem, so it's nice.
Thanks, Dustin. Salson, William, whoever wants to grab the mic next.
Yeah, I was just gonna grab the mic here. My name is William. Thanks for having me today. I am the COO and studio director of Andromeda, and we are a Web3 entertainment technology gaming hub that has focused on mobile gaming, VTubing. We have a multi-streaming platform that is all interoperable with our ecosystem, backed by some tokenomics and a two token ecosystem. So we've really focused on bringing a lot of different verticals of revenue to enterprises so we could partner up and bring our digital ecosystem to a physical reality. So one of the RWA pipelines that we've already executed on is our physical comic book. We have two IPs that are within our ecosystem. One is the Sevens, and the other is called the Outcast Origins. So, figuring out a way to get a publishing deal with entertainment and media companies within the Web2 industry to bolster that, physical product sale that would be a big pipeline for us here in the near future, as well as trying to bring some virtual land and real estate from IRL into our ecosystem and our MMORPG that we're currently in the process of creating. So, there's a lot of good pipelines for us. We've also created our own design format and standard for 3D modeling. So this is something I'm pretty proud of and our team of doing. We basically think about like an FBX file or an OBJ file. I know we weren't going to get technical, but just think about a 3D modeled character online, right? Well, there's different file types, and we have created our own standard. So the more widely popularized our ecosystem gets, the more interoperable and widely utilized our assets could be, both in digital and physical realities. And then the last pipeline would be collectibles, obviously. Mangas, figurines, they're pretty synonymous together. One of our recent advisors that we onboarded, he actually has a distribution and 3D printing business that is backed by some pretty cool technology that is far over my head and my smooth brain. But in simplicity's form, it's basically some color and material science that is integrated with blockchain technology. So you can actually have a one-of-one figurine, and it's trackable on the blockchain, and it's based off of the color, and think about like genes and stuff like that. That's how I think about it in the lab. They're just putting like red with brick together, and seeing how it mixes, and then throwing some blockchain technology within it so it can be a tag within your clothing items, or a metal piece on your figurine or your trophy. So I appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to hearing all the insight.
All right. It feels like we have one more speaker that did not speak. We've got Bud that's requesting. I don't know if you were requested to speak. Did I miss any speakers that wanted to speak? Okay, go for it. Go for it. Sorry.
Hello, guys. Thank you for having me today. I had some troubles with the connection at the first minutes. That's why I just connected right now, and maybe you missed because of that. So I'm Yulia. I'm the co-founder of Salsa Valley. We merged the Web 2 and Web 3 worlds and realms in our GameFi and entertainment ecosystem. And we are not like 100% focused on RWA, but we definitely use these cases. And in our ecosystem, which we built, we create the like unique crypto world with the different assets, different products for different types of people, and our huge focus to engage the Web 2 people into the Web 3 world. And our vision is that, of course, as we are real people and we live in the real world, we need to, now this is the time when we need to connect the digital, the Web 3 technologies with the Web 2 used to products. And it could be done, for example, like the marketing and partnerships, where we can leverage the interest in tokenized assets to form partnerships with the real world brands, giving users the opportunity to exchange the virtual achievements for the real world products or services. For that, we create the crypto cartoon series. We create the crypto board game. This is the physical board game, the physical product. We're gonna release our own under our own trademark, the line of salsa sauce. So when people are engaged into our ecosystem and they engage in different like games, they use the same NFTs in all our ecosystem as we have the Chainlink NFT economy. Then by like playing and using the products, they can use these assets to and tokens and NFTs, for example, to buy the board game, to buy the sauce, to vote for the future series episodes of our cartoon series to have the NFT avatars in the game from the cartoon series, for example. And this is the vision how it can be done even in the entertainment, even in the like gaming industry with the GameFi and Web3 technologies here. So this is very important for now for every type of project, as for me, as for us, uh, to collaborate in that cases, to give the value for the people and to give the value for the web to people to be more interested in joining our world where we are now. Thank you.
Awesome. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And what I wanted to do was, did I miss any speakers? I think we've got everyone, right?
Well,
Everyone said what they
I,
do, gave their initial thoughts on RWA Enterprise, gave some really great concrete examples, and also contrasted infrastructure versus DApp opportunities, which are really great. And simply here, I'm I'm not speaking in simple, short words too, but we want to make sure that everyone really understands what we do. So I think what we did talk about is a little bit about infrastructure examples. Just to kind of lead the witnesses again as we go around the room, I'm going to tee you guys up to two things that I'd like for you guys to comment on. What are the success factors? What are the success factors and or risks or hurdles to gaining enterprise adoption for Web3, dApps, blockchain, relative to real world assets? So if you can ideally touch upon that, talk about a concrete example or suggestions or thoughts. If you have not already, I would love to hear that. So success factors and or risk or hurdles. So pros and cons, pluses or minuses as RWA Web3 blockchain penetrates to enterprise. And I would love to hear some very specific examples that you guys may have around dApps. I'll go first. I'll just mention one. I remember in the enterprise, when I did work in the enterprise before starting a company, I loathe for some reason doing expense reports. And I always felt that, man, if there was just a simple, fun, rewarding way to do expense reports, that would be awesome. CRM applications. When I use CRM applications, I wish they were more gamified. They should have been feeling like a video game, right? Salespeople love games. They love closing deals, and so CRM applications could have been fun. Don't even get me started on ERP platforms, which is why the inspiration of growing healthier up to an enterprise ERP platform that's modern that works with RWA protocols like Go Smart Chain and Go Protocol. Those are my three examples, but I'd love to hear about your hurdles, success factors. Give some DApp examples specifically, and because those are important things, right? We can talk about great ideas all day long about opportunities of RWA and all the trillions of dollars of assets coming online, but if we don't really talk about and bring to fruition and speak into existence the hurdle jumping that needs the success factors, it's all for naught, right? So give some examples, guys. Talk pros and cons, pluses or minuses. We'll go back around the room starting with Alan, and then just keep tossing the mic and don't let me insert myself. I'm probably about 1 minute of speaking into getting accused for being main character syndrome here. So Alan, go for it.
Appreciate that. Yeah, those are all good points. And when you talk about the risk factors, hurdles, especially as it relates to enterprise, I think right now everybody's looking at just the accessibility and liquidity in these markets. So BlackRock is trailblazing. They're leading the way. Their BUIDL fund has over $500 million in liquidity directly on chain. So they're tokenizing these assets, putting different treasuries, different types of RWAs, as well as stocks, bonds, and other things into this fund, in which that's becoming directly available to institutional. And I know a lot of people have been looking at institutional lately just in regards to how quickly different regulation can open up institutional access. Even going back further, a lot of the initial catalysts for the market being Bitcoin ETF, ETH ETF, and all these other things that are actually more off-chain, but manifesting those on-chain. And I know it's really difficult for enterprise and more institutional people to get on-chain, considering the hurdles in terms of the custodian requirements, the need to have private keys and having different custodians manage that. And slowly, a lot of that friction is getting removed. And so we're going to see a lot of larger players come in and deploy into these RWAs. And I think when you kind of hinted at infrastructure versus the dApps and how those should actually be used, but the infrastructure is very important because these systems, being decentralized and permissionless, are actually more efficient in the long term for RWA's transfers and getting that across the globe in a way that is kind of more isolated when you look at stocks in the US market. And so I think that's going to be really useful. I think some of the hurdles, though, and some of the things that are really limiting the growth is privacy and having people kind of seeing that directly on chain and having those portfolios directly visible. And so I'm interested to see what evolves in the world of privacy and facilitation around these RWA transactions and who's buying them, who owns them, how we're able to identify wallets, as well as downstream effects in terms of stablecoin growth and how people are bringing those sorts of transactions on chain. Because I know USDC, USDT, Paxos, and others are pretty censorable and pretty able to be mitigated if someone says you can't transact in the stablecoin. So I know stablecoins aren't as related to RWAs. I consider them in a similar market. Bringing dollars on chain is probably as tangible as it gets compared to something like a stock or a commodity. But at that same time, I think privacy is going to be a big blocker to adoption for institutions and enterprises as a whole in the RWA category. So I'll pass that along. Would be interested to hear. It looks like Innovative Bioresearch has their hand up. I'll toss it over to them if they want to speak. If not, maybe to Dustin or someone else in the panel here.
I mean, I'll jump on. You said.
Oh, sorry. We weren't given the opportunity to introduce ourselves, so.
Yeah, Innovative, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. Oh,
Can you
want to try again, Innovative?
Can you hear me?
We can now, yeah.
All right, sorry. I wasn't given the opportunity to introduce myself.
All right, go for it. Or Dustin, if you want to jump in.
I'll be very quick. So, can you hear me?
I think, which project are you from? Because Innovation was a woman, to my knowledge. So I'm not sure who this is. Is it the same project or is it Buddy? It's kind of rugged.
Hello? Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I know it's like really rugged and hard.
I can hear. It's a little delayed.
Sir, can you hear me?
I can hear.
We can hear you.
I can hear everybody. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Go for it.
Can you hear me? All right. Maybe there's some delay.
All right. Yeah, I think some audio issues on Buddy's part, but Taraxa or Dustin, whoever wants to jump in next.
I'll jump on.
So Alan, thanks for that insight. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah,
Dustin.
yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of in that mix right now. So we're working with Sonium, which is a Sony chain, and like kind of that consortium using privacy, like working with the public sectors. I think that's kind of like the intersection of like having enterprises work with the public sector because obviously ledgers are all public. So enterprises are taking time to like build out like a DAO infrastructure and using like these consortium chains to send like transactions as like through bulk transactions to the main public chain. So like if Sony wants to have an enterprise chain or all these like other like Shell and all them that work with like Energy Web, they'll have like all their carbon credits or whatnot onto their own private chain, and then that information within their own DAO infrastructure, and then whatever information needs to be shared with the public. Like that's kind of where we're at, I would say, for like privacy. That's kind of my idea.
That's interesting. I'd actually be really keen to hear more like on that Sonium relationship, especially in terms of like how those chains are built and managed. But it looks like Taraxa also too. Well, before I interject and go back to Dustin, would love to hear from y'all.
Oh, hey. Yeah, like I said, I'm really here to just kind of learn from all the experts here. So my classmate in Japan, he's building this RWA startup, right? So it's a real estate startup. He bought out, I think, over 200 residential houses in around Tokyo within like an hour drive. And his business is actually to rent them out. He signed this. He created this fund with a local bank. I think it's like Mitsui Bank or something like that. As a fund to kind of purchase these houses from him as he kind of gets them up going. But the problem that he runs into is that he said that if he issues these, because we talk about this, right? If he issues this, like put it on like a DEX or something, and it's just floating, right? There's no reference price for these real estate assets. Like I said, it's not like a stock that gets traded like every second that you get to see what the price is. So somebody could go on a DEX and just like tank the price, and then what? And then he has to go back and say, well, here we'll buy it back at this bottom price or something like that. It's very complicated. That means he has to sit on a huge pile of capital just ready to get this bought back. So real estate, I keep hearing about real estate in RWA. How do other people solve this problem?
There's like off-chain computation. There's off-chain workers that could feed this information. It's like what Chainlink does essentially, but there's other projects that feed that off-chain data into Web3 interfaces. So like there is like obviously it's very early. I can't say it's that in demand, but like for like democratizing funding and stuff like that, like on-chain DAO infrastructures, that is kind of where it's at now. But yeah, when it comes to like trading a token that's correlated to a physical property, I haven't seen like a proper product right now at this point. But Polymath, or was it Polytrade? One of those projects, there's like like I guess tracking some of that data, say if it was like T-bills or something, like that's kind of where would be where we're at now.
But like real estate gets traded very infrequently, right? Once every 20 years. So where do you get the market price from? I mean, even if it's an off-chain oracle, where's the off-chain oracle getting that data from?
I'm definitely much more interested in crypto just facilitating those real estate transactions. I think the ownership of it is something that might not necessarily need to live on chain. I know people are like representing car titles because that might be something that is more frequent than, say, a house whenever you have like a 30-year mortgage, or versus your car that you kind of get every 5 to 10 years. So that frequent update might be more suitable for on-chain, and I know chains are experimenting with that. But I definitely think just facilitating these transactions in crypto sort of addresses that total addressable market a little bit more directly. That's maybe my thought.
Interesting. Yeah, that's I would see that's the one thing is like the projects I know that are utilizing like democratizing funding for like real estate, like there isn't a proper marketplace for this yet that I've seen. We're kind of in that like equity kind of where we have an ISPO, so like offering equity on chain, but like it's still like where do you liquidate these the equity? There's no like traditional crypto market for that.
Yeah, I mean, too, if you were, it might actually help because real estate is actually a pretty competitive industry, but also too, just the mechanics of real estate is tricky because all of the different parties that you're working with, between the seller directly, your agents, as well as their agent, and then the actual sort of title transfer. So this is kind of an out there idea, but it's actually hilarious to think about a marketplace that's like a Zillow competitor that's directly on chain that can actually inscribe royalties directly to agents and then facilitate all of that. Because I know, whenever kind of people meme about it, where it's like, oh, if you're looking at Zillow and you tanked all the crypto prices, well, like that's actually something that might be ripe for innovation there and adoption in the RWA space.
Oh, hello, can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Yep.
Oh yeah, sorry. May I add something? As I didn't have the opportunity to introduce myself, we are a pharmaceutical company working on HV research. We are developing an HV therapy. So in our
Awesome. Keep it going, guys. Who else wants to chime in that hasn't spoken this second
in
round?
our case, the real world asset would be represented by our pharmaceuticals that we are developing. And we have,
Testing 1, 2, 3. You guys can still hear me okay? Thumbs up.
Yeah,
You guys good?
on
Buddy's
my end,
speaking.
Innovative is talking, but I don't think you can hear him.
hopefully you can.
I couldn't hear for some reason. Sorry if I cut you off. Keep going. I'll go on mute.
Right.
Keep going,
Hopefully
guys.
you can hear me. I am a research scientist. I'm a virologist, and we've been the first company to bring pharmaceutical assets to the blockchain. We've been pioneering decentralized science. We basically introduced decentralized science in the blockchain space. Back in 2018, we issued our own token. And at that point, it's interesting because when you issued this token, basically, in my view, the token represents the tokenization of all biomedical research, which is the HV therapy that we are developing. And a very straightforward way to connect the value of the trip to the token itself would be to have the token accepted as a means of payment to access the treatment. This way, the users owning the token own access to the medical service. So in my way, a direct utility as a means of payment is a very straightforward way to connect the real world value of a real asset to a token. Now, in the pharmaceutical field, this is very straightforward as the medical service has a price. So the value is directly related to the price of the medical service. And this is very interesting as there's this speculation going on before the product itself is released on the market. So there's very some wild speculation on this. But after the product itself is released, then when you have an asset which is backed by the real world value of a service, then you will have the value connect to the value of the real world asset itself. So the speculation will be much less wild. So I believe that it is very important to connect an asset to something that can back its value. Otherwise, it's just going to be very wild speculation.
Yeah, he's done talking. If you want to step down, actually, and then come back, then we can add you, dude. And then you'd be like, because you have some really good conversation. I do appreciate what you're saying. But
So
yeah, agreed. Then that should fix it.
Yeah, if you can hear me, I'm not sure if you can hear me, because sometimes the audio is breaking out for me, so I'm not sure if you can hear me correctly. But the discussion is very interesting because there's assets which are very speculative.
All right, guys, can you guys hear me again? Yeah, there's something odd going where some of you I think speak and I can't hear it. But I guess I
100%.
wonder if on the recording.
Yeah, I think
Can you guys hear me?
someone step down. If you guys step down and come back. Yeah.
I can
Okay.
hear you. I'm not sure if you can
Okay,
hear
awesome,
me.
awesome. Well, hey, what I wanted to do really quick, if you guys want to do popcorn style, as we're getting to the last leg of the space. Super awesome conversations, topics brought up. We talked about infrastructure, hurdles, success factors. I think those are some major elements. We haven't really touched upon distribution and maybe just how, the importance of integrating into current applications, workflows, and infrastructure is critical and key. We all know Salesforce, Microsoft, Amazon, SAP, applications, infrastructure, and kind of staple pieces in the enterprise side. Love your thoughts on just distribution, integration, if those are important success factors. And if you guys just want to popcorn style, just pop in and talk about some of those dimensions. Anything else you kind of want to talk about is fine as long as it's RWA Enterprise related. And then if you guys have any other just example application examples that could be applicable in the short term relative to RWAs being in the enterprise. So I'll just hush here, and I know we're getting to the last leg. So popcorn style, guys, go for it.
I mean, I guess I'll just jump on yours. Last of the Mohicans on the space.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't going first there.
Yeah, no,
sorry.
No worries. Yeah, I feel like now we're kind of like the terminology has kind of come full circle. Like we in our project has been building in like this RWA using physical products, whatnot. But like enterprise level, like centrifuge, like having these marketplaces where you democratize funding from, receiving funding from, said enterprises, and then using that to pay out your investors. It's like that's a really good like sector to be in, when it comes to enterprise. Like the funding comes from the decentralized sources, and those enterprises fund said projects, and then it gets democratized on chain. So like that to me is very important. And then like to add to go, like you were mentioning about like USDT and stable coins, those are just as much as an RWA to me, is because the stability, the accessibility, liquidity, these are important aspects when it comes to any commodities. So having that like intermediate trade with the actual stable coin to me is just as important, if not more important, as RWA.
Yeah, and that's a good point to echo. And I'll jump back in just on the other areas that we might have not touched as much on from an enterprise side, and you named a lot of large companies, and I think that's really kind of one of the main barriers to crypto adoption is we're really good at infrastructure and we're good at creating these networks and these ways for people to access value permissionlessly, but we're not really good at user interfaces. And Web2 companies are actually going to excel and I think bring that more to the masses and to the people that are already their users because network effects and these moats are so huge. And that's why whenever you look at these systems like Venmo, like X.com, like Facebook, like Instagram, and all of these people that are willing to plug in these experiences directly to their customers and to these people that have already amassed the network effects, I think that's going to propel the use case tremendously. So I kind of alluded to it prior just in terms of the institutional growth and adoption, but like that is that Web 2 UI and that network effect to the RWA ecosystem. And the area in which I'm extremely excited about is more on the commodity side, just in terms of these kind of denominating contracts and denominating these facilitations and doing this on chain and doing business in these commodities such as oil, nickel, cobalt, and other things that are more sort of tangential to the economy and these things that can build our kind of downstream products and downstream consumer goods that we access. And if we could bring a lot of that supply chain directly on chain and have that represented in a way that is pretty frictionless and able to be accessible to people that want to track it and transfer it across the globe, I think that's kind of one of the true killer use cases that's going to get us to that 16 trillion by 2030. So I'd have to look kind of more in the breakdown and see there for where a lot of the else is kind of headed and kind of Anthony, what you said in some of those reports and those metrics earlier, but extremely excited on the commodity side and fingers crossed kind of more of that can continually get built on chain, especially around the smaller consortium like chains that may do some of it off chain, may do some of it in a smaller network, and then publish on chain and kind of solve some of those privacy concerns.
Yeah, I'm interested in like yeah, exactly, like trading these commodities. Like I'm looking at like uranium as like a huge play, like being able to access it without having like, some, accredited, position in this, like $1 million as like a US citizen to be accredited to be. But like what's using these previous interfaces like you mentioned, like having like Google logins and Apple logins or biometrics, like these are important to use these particular aspects of like accessibility from the Web 2 space. Like most of it is already working. We don't want to have like more difficulty in like this transitional period. Technology should be a stack, not a headache, essentially. And that's kind of like the abstraction of using like Web 3 in the Web 2 space. So like I think that's very important.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And I think that permissionless nature, like you said, just accessing it without a lot of these strict requirements or sort of gating things that are just say, hey, hey, I want to buy this or I want to get exposure to this. And that's kind of the one thing crypto has solved so well, for better or worse, when you look at the other categories like meme coins and all of the different things that exploded, is it's just become so frictionless and it's become so easy. But then how do we actually bring that to the assets that are kind of more physical and are able to be represented on chain? I know with Quai, we're doing that in a unique way with energy directly, more so electricity, and putting that in something that is like a stable coin, which will translate to hopefully denominating in commodities and denominating in things like uranium. If the uranium prices skyrocket, how is that going to affect electricity in Germany, or how is that going to affect sort of nuclear power plants from getting built, and how we're going to be able to create cheaper energy, or are we going to have miners that need to plug in and sort of offset some of that excess energy? So that's kind of the main area we look at, and having that regionally and having people being able to secure a network while doing that is some of our thought there. But yeah, I think too with like the agricultural, oil and gas and other areas that are sort of more traditional, if we can find ways to make that permissionless and directly into the network, that would be huge.
Yeah, and you mentioned supply chain, and since I worked in the industry for like the last 12 years in logistics and supply chain, it sparked some Google searching here for me, and I see that IBM has like a food trust is what it's called, and it's basically uh an automated recording of transactions of all the products, the commodities, all the food moving through. And in transportation, logistics, and supply chain, like quality data is so important because there's so many different pipelines of communication and breakdowns and all that other stuff that you can't control. So everyone having a single access point, like a shared document essentially, eliminates so many different communication errors and claims, disputes, all that stuff with the products and the commodities that are shipping every single day across the country and the globe. So I find
Yeah,
that pretty
IBM is a
interesting. I think that's a good use case for it, and I think it's going to be widely adopted.
I agree, but I also disagree in a little bit because IBM is a really unique sort of structure in terms of a corporation. I used to look at to Hyperledger pretty deeply in 2018, and the sort of consortiums and networks that Dustin brought up earlier, they kind of struggled, and they got to this point where really it was more so the EEA, the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance, and
Hmm.
Hyperledger, R3 Corda, and a lot of other systems that were experimenting with a lot of that more direct supply chain approach. But I don't think it really works unless you can do that settlement in a public ledger and get that liquidity, get that access, and get that verifiability that anyone can really
Yeah,
look at,
that's
depending
true.
on who you're looking at, or working with. And so that's kind of like the thing where it's like if IBM can figure that out or do more in that way, they're kind of like they're a huge behemoth, and they can kind of like an eye Sauron kind of point their direction in whichever way and make it happen. But I think making sure they're on chain and doing it in a way that can bring in more parties is kind of that better use case.
Well, they better use Watson then,
Yeah, Watson is a really interesting. Yeah, I mean they always have first movers. They always have first movers and then they fall behind. Like Watson's been around for so long. Sorry for the IBM people in the crowd if I'm too against it.
No, I love that DAO infrastructure aspect. Like that to me is like most important, is that if they're going to be, these enterprises, or institutions, working with the public sector, like they have to have a way to democratize, what that looks like. It's not like a, person that makes all the decisions. That to me is like what we have already. Like, but yeah, I'm in the DAO infrastructure sector, like with Polkadot and stuff. So I think they have the best, infrastructure in the world. So just saying, small plug. But yeah, I think enterprise level is like, yeah, we definitely need to be, careful what information is being provided through these like public sectors, through enterprises. Not everybody needs to know all the ins and outs. There is a lot of like, particular sourcing that you may not, be able to have that information is classified in some sense. So like, maybe like DoD might not use some of these infrastructures for public. Like I spoke to Department of Defense a couple of years ago using blockchain. Like, they're like still archaic in like Windows XP, like in their transition. But like, but yeah, they're very also interested in like how enterprises interact institutions with like public sectors. So they're like, the governments are using these things as well, but it's like you can't give up too much power for something that works already for them. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where it's at, I would say.
Yeah, 100%. And I also think if you look at that adoption from an enterprise side, it's hard because I kind of said earlier we want to cater to these Web 2 companies, but at the same time, we have to sort of build our own institutions because all of these other things ossify. They aren't really able to adopt change. It's really hard for them to have change management processes inside of these organizations for people to adopt it. So, most often than not, it's easier for a new innovator to just come and make a better product. And so I think that's kind of what the RWA ecosystem is really figuring out from an enterprise side is how much do we want these legacy institutions to do it versus how much company to come and just put stablecoins on chain and go across 10 different networks. How much do we want that to be done by, an Exxon Mobil for representing oil and gas, or just somebody that can oracleize that and do it directly and have futures and options and all the other things directly tied to those RWAs. So that would be the thought experiment there.
So true. Because yeah, they're not gonna transition if it doesn't, mutually benefit them in a very like like there's a lot of compensation there. You got to be able to like make that transition. Like the say carbon credits are most important now because other people are realizing the value of like our emissions. it gets put in our face, it's front facing, but behind the scenes, it's like no one cared into a certain point, so it's like this education of like, are these technologies useful for these enterprises? Who's building it prior to? It's not like they're going to just jump, first per people. We've been working with Sony and Toyota and Honda. Like, they don't want to just jump into like using DAO infrastructure. We've had hackathons and we've had, these consortium chains now, behind the scenes, but like, it doesn't like publicly affect us yet, but it's important that those institutions and enterprises are paying attention, but it's still like, how do they implement it, and like, what's the best case scenario?
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I think we're coming up on the hour here, so I wanted to see if Anthony, the host of the space, had any kind of closing things you wanted to wrap up here.
Yeah, no, I just didn't want to insert myself. You guys are having such great conversations and adding value to this topic of RWA and Enterprise. I think this is going to go on record as a really good RWA Enterprise 101 for anyone on the planet that wants to get caught up to speed. So I really want to give you guys kudos and praise and props for really bringing a cerebral conversation forward and bringing the narrative forward, and also creating just possibilities. I think you guys are amazing and awesome. We're coming against the hour. Dustin, I don't know if you have it in you, but when I found out last week this wasn't recorded, I was like, I had one of those moments. I failed you. And
I felt that. I was like, went back to go listen. I was like, shit.
That was amazing.
Damn.
But if you have it in you, I've got your traditional Mob Deep Shook Ones instrumental ready to go. If you got
Mob Deep Shook, really? Okay, all right.
I got it. I can hit the button and the music goes. And if you got the flow and the rhymes and the words, and you're hearing the Brooklyn in me coming up, because I'm from Brooklyn, so I'm a hip hop junkie. But no pressure, only if you're
pressure. All the pressure. I'm a diamond in the rough.
Pressure. You ready for the pressure?
Well, I'm ready.
Guys, we're working hard in the RWA space. You guys are working hard in Web3. You got to let off some steam. So when you work hard, you get to be a little playful and be a little cute, right? So, but Dustin, you the man. I don't know if you've got an MC name, but I'm gonna hit go, and you just jump in, and hopefully you guys can hear. So.
I go by Bustin' Dustin, but I'm just out here. I've been rapping for years. Let's see if I can get the beat.
Can you hear it?
Man, it's quiet. It is quiet a little bit. Y'all know Shook. Don't get caught up like a fishing hook. Episode 7, RWA Enterprise. We got Scottie Pippen in the show. What's the go? Telling me we kick it with the EVM Project Go. This is how we do it. My name is Dustin Lee. I'm out here. D-Story, you feeling me? RWA is the place that we made. We paid the path on Discovery Channel to sell an Opal. That's a fact. I'm out here getting that. A backup on the blockchain, the tech stack. This is how we do. We got a transparency, but we have to abstract the Web3 for the Web2 people to feel that me. I'm out here, you're doing a thing. I stay in the game, stay in the lane, in the blockchain, in the lane. And we like, hey, this is how we doing it. Let me spit some names. Salsa Valley on the island. What's up, dude? We got Taraxa coming back. Innovation, Helium and Buddy. What's up? Out here calling my cuddy. America, coin, digital, cryptocurrency. That's what we pushing. Digital assets. Come back. We every day coming back on the blockchain stack. Do our things in RWAs and enterprises. We got no surprises. That's what the transparency is feeling me, democratizing the way we live. Coins that we get and cop and then flip. And this is how I stay equipped. Telling me I'm equipped. This somebody like name is Dustin Lee. Feeling me. I'm out here. I'm not a prodigy. I'm the number one. I'm out here. I've been out here for 7 years, and I made funds from ETS and ERC 721s. But that's okay.
Okay.
The maintain digital.
All right, we got too much heat on a speaker booth.
Awesome.
What's up?
I love it. I love it. You can go on forever and ever, but we'll honor everyone that was on this podcast. Dustin, you're amazing, man. And I'm gonna call Elon Musk directly if there's any hiccups in this recording. But yeah, hopefully you get to tokenize it. I don't even know what the latest Web3 music platform is, but that's an RWA track, and you guys buy it. Hey, shout out Dustin. I love you, man. I love you guys all. You guys are awesome. You guys kicked the conversation forward. Props and shout outs to Alan at Quiet Network. Thank you for adding value. Guys, follow everyone that was a speaker. Join their game, their DApp, their newsletter, their sign up. Even follow them on Pinterest if you're on there. Taraxa Project, thank you so much for adding value. William and Andromeda, thank you so much. Dustin, of course, with D-Store Network and Shadow MC here at nighttime or daytime. Token Tales, thank you for talking about the cats in the game, and you add a lot of value. Really appreciate what you're doing. Very fun experience, innovative bioresearch. And then obviously we had
Thank you.
Pog that showed up a couple of times. Another one, Digital Pass Mint on Polygon. Great network. Shares an investor in us, Animoca. Really appreciate that. You guys are awesome. I think we're set. Come back next week. Learn more about RWA. Speakers come back. And man, if you keep joining, Dustin, you're going to have an album all for all really quick, man. So
I'm
you
here.
guys are awesome.
Yeah. See me at Aggregated Spaces at Polygon every week, Friday, 3 p.m. UTC.
Amen. Amen. You guys heard that, and we will do that. Appreciate it. Yeah, we'll be there. Guys, thank you so much. Yeah, have a great Thursday, great rest of the weekend. Keep hustling hard. Bull market's coming. We know how this works. We know what to do, right? So let's keep adding value and keep building. Much love, guys. Thank you.
Let's do it.
Hey,
Thank
thanks
you.
for the
Bye
insight,
bye.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Talk to you
Thank
Shout
you,
soon.
out
guys.
Quiet Network. Quiet Network has the best parties, just saying. And Scotty Pippen.
Yeah.
Hey, no, I've been there, dude. I made that place clap last year, dude. It was best.
Let's
Best.
go. Let's go. And see
Yeah,
a lot of you
great.
guys at Token 2049, guys. Be safe, safe
All right.
travels. Much love, guys. Thank
Peace.
you. All right, thanks.
Scotty Pippen, peace.
That's right. Scotty, man.
We
Love
got
you,
Scotty Pippen, bro. What's
man.
good?
There we
The
go.
legend. The
It's
legend.
official. We're legit. We're on the map. Pippin.
Pippen, let's go.
What up? The man. Oh, man. So awesome. Making my family proud here. Thanks, guys. You guys are awesome. Really appreciate everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Network is our net worth. Peace.
Man.